You're now listening to Sound Talent Media. Check out more shows at soundtalentmedia.com.
Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Matt Migaki, the vocalist of Cryptopsy and the host of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, where I sit down with fellow metal musicians. We talk all about their lives and music while sharing killer craft beers. If you've ever wanted to sneak backstage and share a beer with one of your favorite musicians, well, Vox and Hops is the podcast for you. This week on the podcast, I dropped a killer episode with Johannes Ekström of Avatar. There is this episode and over 440 other ones to help you enjoy life, metal, and craft beer. So what are you waiting for? It's time to become a Vox and Hops head. Cheers!
This episode of the Tone Mob Podcast is brought to you by Sinusoid. As always, the lovely dudes at Sinusoid have come through yet again to help deliver this episode straight to your ears. And I want to tell you about their custom shop. Yes, they've got a lot of off-the-shelf stuff that you can buy. They got some DIY stuff. But I want to talk about their custom stuff, because a lot of people don't realize they're capable of a lot more than just instrument cables. They can do snakes. They got, power cables, all sorts of different colors of tech flex. If you don't see exactly what you're looking for, just email them. Email anybody over there at support@sinusoid.com and tell them what you're dreaming of, and I would be willing to bet money that they can make it happen. So go to sinusoid.com, check out all the offerings, and make the cable of your dreams. This episode is also brought to you by the Fear the Riff Expo. That's right, it's returned for 2018, and it's taking place in Brooklyn, New York on August 11th. That's a Saturday, good folks. Brooklyn, New York, Fear the Riff, August 11th. There's going to be a ton more vendors there. There's even a few rumored guests that might show up. I know I teased about that last time, but I'm teasing about it again. Once I have confirmation, I will let you know. I will be there. We'll probably do some sort of a Tone Mob VIP pass thing again, which was a good time, and hopefully we can make it even cooler than it was last time. So, there again. Saturday, August 11th, Brooklyn, New York, Fear the Riff. Be there. I'll be there. And, let's say hi. Maybe eat a taco or something. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the ToneMob.com podcast. The show about guitar tone and the people behind it. I am your host, Blake Weiland, and with me today I have Tom Wisniewski of the band MxPx. How's it going, man?
How's it? Good, how are you, man?
I'm just going to pretend that we haven't been talking for 10 minutes already, because that's...
There you go. This is all fresh right now.
It's so fresh. It is. It's actually a lot more fresh, to be honest. It's a lot more fresh than most of my episodes. Most of my episodes I've had a conversation or two already, but this is like, wham bam, we're into it, we're going.
Jump in the deep end, let's go. We better learn to swim.
Let's do it, man. So I'm thinking a lot of my audience, they're around my age. They probably are at least aware or have heard of your band name before, but if you would give maybe a quick snippet of a overview of MxPx and your kind of history, and then maybe we can get into the gearness and whatever else happens.
Yeah, so MxPx, we started up here in Bremerton, Washington in 1992. That's like 25 years ago now, and been playing music and touring the world pretty much solid until like 2009 when we kind of slowed down for a while. Some of us got jobs, and now I consider it hobby rocking. We go out on the weekends and stuff, and it's pretty awesome.
That does seem like a pretty good place to be.
Oh, yeah, you guys it's wonderful.
It seems like a have your cake and eat it too type of situation.
I mean, I definitely miss touring full time, but nowadays with touring and all that, it's just as easy just to book out weekends and fly around and do it that way.
Yeah, that's really cool that you guys. I think all the work you put in the early years is what enabled you to be able to do that. Because there's guys that they have to tour and that's what they have to do. The flight dates aren't really an option.
Yeah, definitely. When you're making your name, you want to be out there playing every night, But once you get a little more established, you can kind of we're pretty selective about what we do. We say no to shows way more than we say yes.
Mm-hmm.
So when we play, it's usually on our terms, and it works out for us and what we want to be doing.
That's really interesting. What was it like when you first started, though? Like, was there ever a period, but because you played for a long time, for very consistently, was there ever a time where it kind of felt like it was more of a grind, or an actual real hard job versus man, we're getting to do this thing?
I mean, definitely. I mean, in the early days of touring, especially rolling around in 15 passenger van with 3-4 of you. I mean, we'd start tours where the first show would be in San Diego, then Denver, then Phoenix, then Dallas the next day, and those are long drives. You're literally jumping off stage, packing up the gear and the merch, and jumping and driving all night to the next spot, and it grinds on you after a while. I mean, luckily when you get over to the East Coast and you're up in the Northeast, everything's an hour drive, and it's cake at that point. But man, some of those tours, running around the Southwest, and we had to buy emergency gas one time in Arizona, and we're pretty sure that's how we blew up the engine in one of our vans.
Oh wow!
It can be a grind down in there for sure, because it's like touring on Mars, kind of between any shows. There's nothing out there.
That sounds awful. Breaking down in the middle of Arizona is not. There's a lot of places that would be much better to break down.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, we had the beginning of one of our first tours where our radiator blew up in the middle of the night, and we were heading to Denver from Orange County, California, and we had to drive for about 20 minutes, then stop, let it cool down, put more water in, all night. It was ridiculous. I mean, luckily we didn't have a show the next day, so it worked out. We had to stop in Flagstaff, Arizona, and get a new radiator. But the cool thing too is, throughout that, since we're stopping on the side of the road in the middle of the night in the middle of nowhere, I mean, it's just pitch black, and you see more stars than you ever seen in your life, and you're just picking out all the satellites buzzing around. Pretty, silver lining of the all night drives and breaking down is you get to see some really fun things.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I wasn't on tour, obviously, but I was in a van, and the radiator blew out in the middle of the Oregon desert, and so very similar situation of driving for 15, stare at the stars and go, wow, that's pretty, but I sure wish I was back at camp.
Yeah. It's okay, I can take a little bit of positive out of this, but I'd much rather just be cruising at this point.
Of course. So this is supposed to be, I'm told that this is a gear podcast about guitar gear. That rarely is the case. Usually we end up talking about a whole, the stars and vans is a good example of what we usually end up talking about. But
you gotta mix it up.
Oh man, I've said on many episodes I should have started a food podcast. We would have talked about guitar pedals a lot more. The food comes in quite frequently. But on that note of trying to be somewhat on topic, what did you guys start out with, or at least you specifically as a guitar player, and then what did that kind of slide into you playing these days? You take us through the whole journey, as much as you can remember it, anyway.
Oh yeah, geez. Let's see. My first real kind of pro gear setup, I had an Epiphone SG and a little practice amp and stuff like that originally. And my first kind of pro gear, though, I ended up getting a Burgundy Les Paul Studio, and it was my first Les Paul, and it was obviously entry level stuff, but it worked, right. And then I had a JCM 900 high gain dual reverb that I used for a couple years, and then we were recording Life in General down in California, and the producer had an old JMP, and then he had a dual rectifier, and I played the dual rec. I'm like, whoa, these are cool. It's got diamond plate on it, and it sounds awesome. So I ended up getting one of those through his roommate was the guitarist of 10 Foot Pole. They're an old Epitaph band.
Mm-hmm.
And he had one that he had bought, and he's like, "Yeah, I bought the dual, but I really want the triple. So if you want to buy this one off me, here's the invoice. You can pay what I paid cost." So I got that, and that was a workhorse for me. That thing never broke down. I played the thing for years, and I ended up getting sponsored with Mesa. So fast forward a bunch of years, and in probably the late '90s, early 2000s, I was playing 6 412s on stage with.
Yes.
I still had that dual. I still had that dual rec running one of the half, a full stack. And I would have that one running like the two like bottom kind of inside towards the drum riser ones.
Mm-hmm.
Then on top of that, I had a Silver Jubilee, a Marshall Silver Jubilee running the top two.
Yes.
Just blasting my face off. And then I used a Mesa Maverick on just the one lower outside one. It sounded better on one cabinet versus two for some reason. And then the top one, just for symmetry, we left it there, but it wasn't plugged in. It was kind of dummy. But
Yeah.
that was much of a fast forward like to that. Then we kind of streamlined it a little bit and came back down a little bit, because the thing with that was Mesa was, I don't know if they had a clearance on cabinets or what, but my buddy Tien, who was my rep there, he called me up one day. He's like, "Hey, do you need any cabinets?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'd take some Mesa cabinets." He's like, $200 a pop. How many do you want? I'm like, "What? That's
what?
like $50. That's $50 a speaker. Are you kidding?"
Yeah, that's basically free.
Yeah, he had a bunch he had to get rid of, so I was just like, yeah, send me 6. It was fun too, because at this point we would jump around on top of our cabinets like a lot, because Mike on his side, he had 3 810s, some MxPx, right? So kind of like we had a pretty clean stage. Like all the amps are tucked behind and everything, but the cabinets were all out front. But we would run around and jump on top of those. So the 810s in some flight cases, they were pretty sturdy, but a bunch of 412s, that's not super sturdy to jump on. So we had this system where we'd run a truck strap around the outside of all 6 cabinets and strap it down all tight. And then we would put 2 of the cases on the floor behind it to make like kind of a T around a truck strap around from the handle on one side to the handle on the other across the cabinets. And man, you could drive a car into that thing and it wouldn't move. It was solid.
That's so awesome.
No joke.
I love that. Like, we're so dedicated to the punk rock show, we must figure out and engineer a specific way to jump off our cabinets. I love that so much. That's phenomenal.
Well, we were sitting at sound check one day, and I was just screwing around waiting for them to fix a mic or something on the drums, and I ran up and I jumped on the drum riser and just hopped up on top of Mike's bass cabinet, and he was like, "Hey, what the hell?" I'm like, "I don't know, just hanging out, right?" So he's like, he goes on the other side and jumps on mine, and it's all super wobbly, and we're like, "Dude, you're gonna fall." And then we're like, "Wait a minute, this could be cool." Like, we always jump off the drum riser and off the amps and stuff like that, and it just ended up being one of those things where it's just like, we could really do this if we just kind of tighten up that side a little bit. I'm pretty sure my guitar tech, one buddy of mine named JJ, he probably hated it, but it was fun.
Yeah, it's like you're making the tubes rattle. Stop kicking the amps, type of deal.
Yeah.
But hey, it's rock and roll. What do you want? Like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah. So then going forward from that a little bit, I think, eventually we kind of decided, well, that's ridiculous. That's so much gear. It looked cool on stage, but it was a lot of stuff. I ended up streamlining it a little bit. I ended up doing 2 412s. I bought a couple of old 70s Marshall 412s with one of them had 30s in it, one of them had 25s in it.
Mm-hmm.
So we ended up we kind of Frankensteined the cabinets to where we put the 30s on the tops, because they're both slants.
Okay.
So put the 30s on the tops, so they'd be a little more clean, just slightly, right? Than the 25s. Yeah. So we put the 25s across the bottom of all 4. And then I kind of had we would mic the top and bottom. It'd be slightly different sounds coming, so we do that. And then I ended up getting an old a 1979 Marshall JMP.
Cool.
And then I still ran my Jubilee, or I got an 800 at one point too, so it kind of switched between the Jubilee and the 800 as the second one, but that JMP was like the standard for a bunch of years too. That thing and my dual rec are probably the 2 amps I played the most.
Do you still have them?
sold the dual rec to a buddy of mine down in Denver, but I still have that JMP. I'll never get rid of that thing.
Very cool.
Yeah, that thing, it was cool. I was in Minneapolis at Soundcheck, and our tour manager at the time, this girl Gloria, she's like, "Hey, I got a buddy who lives in town here. He like, modifies amps, like he works on amps and everything. He wanted to bring one down for you to check out maybe." I'm like, "Yeah, sure, whatever, have him bring Soundcheck." So he brings this JMP up on stage, sets it up, and I walk in and meet him, say hey, and plug into it, and it just like immediately I was like, yeah, this is awesome. So I kind of tried to play it cool. I'm like, yeah, this is pretty rad. And so we sound checked, and we played it all through sound check, and it was pretty sweet. And then I was like, Gloria, ask him how much he wants for it, right? So eventually she asked her buddy, hey, how much you want? Says $500. I'm like, pay the man. Hurry up. Like, this thing's not leaving.
Right.
I'm like, $500 for this thing? God, yes.
Oh man, that's a smoking deal. Even if it was not even working that well, it would be a good deal.
Oh, dude, and that's the thing too. This guy, he had some sort of tie to Pearl Jam. I don't know if he worked on some of their amps or if he sold them amps or what. But yeah, I didn't let him take it off stage. I'm like, this thing's staying right here.
That's right. Them Seattle guys aren't getting this from me. Bremerton's gonna win this one.
Yeah. I don't know if Mike McCready might have ended up with or something, but who knows? But I'm happy I have it. I love that thing. It records great, sounds great. It's been a tank. Same thing. Just it never breaks down.
That's awesome. That leads me to something what you just said. You were talking about your stage gear a lot, but I'm imagining it looked a little different in the studio. Not a lot of speaker.
Yeah,
jumping.
definitely. No, definitely not that. Only 1 410. It's not that fun to jump off of.
No.
Or sorry, 412. But yeah. So let's see. Like over the years, like for Life in General, like I said, we had the JMP and the dual rec, and that literally was just like a JMP on one side, the Mesa dual rec on the other, and that's just how it was. Moving through the years, like when we recorded Ever Passing Moment with Jerry Finn, he would do a tri-amping thing where he had the kind of like the higher kind of frequency amp, a mid, and a low.
Okay.
So for that, I can't remember if it was a dual reverb or what, but he had a Fender combo that we ran for like the kind of higher sound one.
Okay.
Then we ran a Silver Jubilee for the mid, and then he had a triple rec that we used for the low, and we'd get all three of them sound really good. Then we kind of blend them together. He had this plexi though. He had a Marshall plexi. It was a white plexi, white cabinet, all hand wired, like whatever 50th anniversary, or 25th anniversary, whatever it was.
Yeah.
But it was hand wired, and I want to say it was maybe by Jim Marshall. It was crazy. Like it was like he was like, "Ooh, check this out!" You can touch it, kind of thing. Like it was really like his kind of special, his baby thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the weird thing about it is you plugged in, like we just stood right in front of it, Les Paul cable straight into it, everything on 10, bass on 0. It was the best sounding amp I've ever heard in my life. It just was incredible. But the weird part about it is it didn't record right. Like we threw mics in front of it and it just never sounded as good as just standing out in front of it. So we actually never recorded with it. But it was the most incredible guitar sound I'd ever heard at that point.
That's really interesting. I wonder what it would have sounded like to maybe you tried this, but just room micing it. I don't know.
Yeah, for us, it's always kind of more close miking. With our new record, we threw some room mics in there, and it actually ended up being really cool. But for most of our band's life, it's been like 421s and 57s close miking on the speaker, and that's it.
Yeah, that makes sense though for the style what you're doing. It's all got to be tight. You know what I mean? You're not trying to catch a whole bunch of decaying notes and stuff most of the time.
Yeah, exactly. It's a lot more tight, like close miking. Like, we never sat like in the big reverb room with the drums and played something really wide open because with how fast we play, it just sounded like a jumbled mess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. We haven't talked about, and I wonder if this is a more recent kind of thing, like it is for a lot of people. What did your pedals look like back, early on versus now? I know you guys are fans of pedals now, but was that always the case?
Yeah. Yes and no. It depends. So early days, I was like, guitar plug straight into amp, just go like keep it simple, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then throughout the years of recording, like I think it would have been on, well, life in general, really. Like there's a song called Chick Magnet where I had to go clean a lot. So sometimes I would have a clean combo that I'd use a stereo pan pedal, like where all the way forwards out one output, all the way back's at another one, and I'd pan between the dirty amps and like a clean combo.
Okay.
Sometimes like I would have I had a Mesa Stiletto for a long time that I'd just channel switch with. It just depends. But then it went more like, maybe on that clean one, I'll throw a little chorus on there. That'll sound cool, right? And so I do that. And recording Our Past Moment with Jerry Finn, we had a clean breakdown on a song called The Next Big Thing. And Jerry was like, oh, we should throw some a little bit of reverb and a little bit of chorus on it. That'll sound really cool. And I'm like, yeah, I don't really use chorus pedals. Whatever, let's try it. And he had just a Dan Electro Cool Cat.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like a $20, $30 pedal. But I mean, it sounds great. It's just a really good sounding chorus, and we use that, and I used that one for years. And it's weird though; it's 18 volts, so you had to like either run 2 batteries or get like a voltage doubler, or if you had a power supply with the 18, that'd work. But so that one was kind of one of the first ones I threw in. Then moving forward, like we did a record called Before Everything and After, and there was like some phase and some things like that, and like kind of like flangey kind of, things that needed to have a little more color and a little more mess to it. So it started getting to where I'd have like an actual pedal board, and it kind of grew. And I was real resistant at first because, like I said, I was all into a cable straight into the head and just play and keep it simple. But I kept playing with and finding fun things to do with them, and like. On that record, Before and After, same thing. There was a song where there was a delay on the guitar for the whole thing, and I had to, figure out. Oh, I've never used a delay. I need to figure out how to use a delay live and get it to tap and be in tempo with Yuri, who's back there playing, and he's just hearing it in like either in ears or like the speakers, but he's not like we never played to a click or anything,
right?
So it never was something where it could just be real easy, like type a number and everyone play it goes. It was always a lot of live feel to it. Like I'd have to kind of tap it out while he was counting 16ths on the hi-hat, right? And then kind of play, and we'd feel, okay, we locked in, we're good, now we can start the song.
I feel like I watched you do that
delay.
I'm pretty sure. That
probably,
that whole
yeah.
scene, I've seen you guys a handful of times because I'm lucky enough to live in this neck of the woods. And I feel like I remember that exact scene. I don't remember what the festival was, but like watching, I'm like, what are they doing? Before I knew anything about gear, really. I was the same way, like a guitar player, like just straight into the amp. And I remember, like, I have this image of you guys looking at each other, and I'm like, what are they doing? What's he stepping on? I don't know. Back to the mosh pit, like I didn't know. I remember scratching my head and watching you and a few other bands do that. And I didn't understand what a tap tempo was, or what even a pedal was at that point. That's interesting to hear you talk about.
Yeah, I think back then that delay, it was probably a Boss like DD3 or DD5, I think, something like that, somewhere around that range of the pedals. It was just like, like what's the most standard pedal? I'll get that because I mean it obviously works. Everyone likes them, cool, and And I don't think boutique pedals were as big back then too, but then fast forward to now, like, we got, buddies at like Keeley and Walrus that, we deal with all the time, and, they'll text us like, hey, we're working on something really cool, and I'm like, oh, that sounds amazing. What is it? Like, before the ARP 87 came out, the guys from Walrus came to one of our shows, and they brought a big pedal board, and we were talking about delays, and they're like, they had a delay, but it was like a big one, right? And I'm like, God, this thing's just kind of big. Like, it's really a space hog for the pedal board. And they're like, oh, dude, we got this thing we're working on right now. They haven't named it yet, right? They were just like, we got this thing we're working on. It's going to be really cool. Like, it's going to be all the features of this thing, but like in a regular size pedal. I'm like, oh man, that sounds rad. Like, let me know when that comes out. And then I saw an ad for it or they announced it on Instagram or something. And I texted my buddy Tyler from there, like, hey, is this the one you were talking about? He's like, oh yeah, that's it. And I'm like, oh dude, that looks so cool. Yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff that one does, and I got one of those now, and it's fun. You know, I like when you it's got the features where you can kind of hold down on the different it's got 2 buttons, right? So you hold down different ones, and it ramps up either like, you know, regen or like, you know, time, and like it's really fun.
Yeah, that is.
You can do some really fun little things with it.
Yeah, that is a fun pedal. I had a good time. I played it at NAMM for a little while and kind of spacing out, and I was like, oh wait, I better go. Been here for a little while. Somebody else might want to check this out. That is a cool unit. I remember you guys. Didn't you guys do something special with Keeley? I know a lot of guys over at Keeley.
Yeah. Yeah. So for our 25th anniversary, we'd been working a lot with Keeley too, and our buddy Josh over there was like, hey, you know, we should make like a pedal for your 25th anniversary, and, you know, maybe do like a giveaway. I'm like, dude, that's such a rad idea. Are you kidding? So we ended up doing it's an Oxblood, but it's in a custom like MxPx box. So you know, we each got one, and, you know, like Chris and I on stage, we throw them on our pedal boards, and Mike's got one. But yeah, we did those, and we made a couple extra ones. And I remember when we got them in, our friends were all at the studio, and they're like, hey, what's up with these extra ones? What's going on with them, man? I'm like, dude, those are giveaways. You can't have them. They're like, oh, damn, come on. Yeah, so we did a little video, and we did a giveaway for a couple of people, and yeah, that was really fun. They're a cool company, and they're super down to like work with us on stuff.
Oh yeah, those guys are awesome. I love the Keeley crew.
Yeah.
Ella and Rob is just a great sweetheart of a man. So been fortunate to have him on a couple
I
times.
never met him. Never met him.
You not met Rob? Oh, you got to pull your
cool.
strings. He's a delight.
Yeah.
He's an absolute delight. You got to talk to Rob.
There's a lot of pedal companies from Oklahoma. I think like if we just went and go played in Oklahoma City, I think we'd meet all the like the brain trust, you know.
You probably would, and like not exclusively, but a lot of roads actually lead back to Keeley when you trace that out. Like a lot of it was people who have worked for or with Keeley at some point decided to kind of branch out and do their own thing, and he's super cool about it and has helped them in some ways, you know, here and there. And yeah, it's like he's kind of the hub though over there. So
he's like the godfather,
sort of. Not to plug, to plug my own show too much, but the first time he was on, he's been on a couple times, is pretty fascinating. If you get a chance to go listen to it, he had some pretty serious struggles he dealt with, and he talked about it on there a little bit, which took me by surprise because I was like I was just dipping my toe into this weirdo gear world at this point. So, if you ever get curious, yeah, he's a pretty interesting cat.
Yeah, I'll check it out.
Now I know this can be the kind of take a side road back to the Gearland. Is Mike as big of a gear nerd as you are?
Not as big, but he's still super into it, and also he gets into the studio stuff a lot too. So he probably nerds out a little more on like studio gear, like actual like, you know, outboard gear and, you know, Pro Tools and all that. Whereas I'm kind of into like just the straight guitar gear. But he definitely does like to nerd out on it too. And like when we were putting all these pedal boards together, like we had a festival show maybe 3-4 years ago down in California, and it was a throw and go, right? You know, like the changeover is like 15 minutes, and that's for one band to tear all the gear down. Everyone else to throw theirs up, and it's time to play, right? So just throw and goes are just like, they're stressful. You don't have a sound check. You never set anything up. You're on rental gear. You know, it's just bam, 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 right? So I'm throwing my pedal bar out there, run my loom back to the amp. I plug in, and nothing happens. And I'm like, what the hell, right? So I'm immediately, you know, it's panic mode. I'm like running through, checking connections, right? Starting to eliminate things, you know. First thing I do is I go back, just plug straight into the amp. Okay, well, that works. Go back, work my way through the pedals. Finally found like my overdrive pedal just for some reason stopped working. So I just like chuck that thing and leave it out of loop. And I finally got it to go, and it was literally like, okay, and time to play. And so, you know, we've never been the most professional band, but we do play a lot of, you know, big kind of higher profile things. And, you know, people are paying decent money to come see us. So I kind of like, after the show, I was like, once we started playing, everything worked. I was like, okay, I can relax. But after the show, I was just really kind of pissed off, like just at my gear, right? Because it's my fault. I mean, it's no one else's fault. So I was just kind of sitting there, and I just told Mike, like, because he saw me freaking out when we were all setting up, and afterwards I was kind of pissed. And he's like, "What happened?" I'm like, "Dude, I don't even know you right now. I have no idea. I just know like I made it work eventually, and we got through the show. But I'm like I'm not dealing with that anymore. I'm gonna go pro at this. Like give me a month. I'm gonna nerd out really hard on this stuff, and I'm gonna figure out like how to really nail this stuff down. Then we're gonna talk." And he's like, "Yeah, definitely." He's like, keep me in the loop, right? So I mean, I went on. I don't want to say like a vision quest, but I went on like some sort of journey where I was going and I was finding out like, okay, cool. I have a piece of plywood that I like, just like wrapped some tape around to make it not a piece of wood anymore, and like I put some Velcro on. There's got to be a better way to do this. So I went and like really like looked into pedal boards and found out like who was doing what, and like different materials and different attachment systems and all that. And I came back to the temple boards, which were they were aluminum.
Mm-hmm.
Their quick release kind of mounting system was just really cool, and I was like this seems like industrial strength. I like this. Like I don't think like I'm gonna step on a pedal and the Velcro is gonna give out because I stepped on it kind of half-assed because I'm just running around the stage and boom, there goes my pedal flying away, right? Or like I feel like this is gonna really I can lock this down. It's not gonna go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up kind of clicking on those, and then I was like, okay, I got this down. And like we had gotten in with the Keeley and the Walrus guys, and I'm like, okay, so I got some high quality like handmade pedals here that aren't going to be like like some little PCB board just fried out because we're playing out in the sun. It's like 120 degrees in the shade, right? So okay, I got something real solid here. I was trying to make it bulletproof. Just absolutely. Like we went and we bought like luckily Yuri, our drummer, he's an electrician by trade, so he's pretty good with soldering iron. So we got like a big spool of Megami cable and like some connectors, and we made we industrial strength the whole thing and just made ourselves some really long cables, like 30 footers for like looms and all that, and like for backup cables. And we ended up like it's a real pain, and like it's just one more thing to break, so why be plugged into long cables dragging around stage and tripping on them, stepping on them, and just they wear out eventually. So like we ended up getting wirelesses, and I was looking at anything from like rack mount ones to like pedal board mounted ones, and I decided on the latest Shure ones. I can't remember the model number off the top of my head, but the Shure ones just like they just seemed kind of rock solid, and everything I read about them online was they're like they're built to last and they're industrial strength. And so we took out the cable from the guitar or the bass to the pedal board out of the mix because it was just one more thing that could go wrong. Yeah, you deal with a little bit with the wireless, but they had a cool auto scan feature where you could just hit a button and they would find like the best frequency for like wherever you are that day. So I kind of locked in on that. Then I was really looking at like like I had the outputs coming from the pedal boards. I'm like, well, I don't want things to get unplugged by accident, so we ended up getting like locking connectors on everything. It's just every little piece I could tweak out on, I did, and I tried to really like dig and research as hard as I could and just really geek out on as much as I could, because I was like, I want to do this and lock this down so if we have a throw and go, I can just kick my pedal board out on stage and plug it in, and I know it's going to work. And so far, like we got better power supplies from True Tone. I was running just like just a random mismatch of like patch cables between all of them. I got I locked in on everyone likes George L's, and I'm like, it makes sense. I can do the custom lengths and all that. So I ended up getting the George L kit and running it down through to make it all clean too. Like I had everything patched up top, but running down underneath the pedal board and everything. And it just like I said, the main key I was going for was bulletproof with these things. I didn't want to have any issues, and like I said, with throw and goes, I just wanted to kick it out there and just have it work every time.
Some of you, a lot of your focus was on reliability, but specifically with the throw and goes, did you have like the mindset like, okay, we're not going to get to pick what amps or whatever we're playing through,
So I need to make my board work with as many backlines as possible, or what was the thought process as far as selecting the actual things on it?
Yeah, I mean, so for the amps, yeah, we do play a lot of rental gear. So I run a Mission Engineering volume pedal it has a minimum volume you can set when you kick it all the way heel down. So I use that as basically like, equivalent to like potting down your guitar for clean. So that's what I use. So whatever I plug into, I just get a good dirty sound, and I use like the amp, preamp, all that. Just that's what I use for the main distorted, dirty sound, and then I have it set to where like 99% of the time it's going to sound great. If I just kick it back to heel down, it's going to clean up enough and it's going to work. It's still slightly driven, but if I just play a little lighter, it works too, and it can really clean it up. So I definitely, a little versatility was in mind there. Like I wasn't like, oh, I'll just plant a Mesa, channel switcher and just hope we get Mesas all the time, because it's just not necessarily going to be the thing. So most of the time when we tour, like we'll get Mesas or Marshalls, or we've been working a lot with Orange lately, so they've been hooking us up, which is really cool. Like I'd always seen Orange around and thought, they're pretty cool. Like strange. You want to wrap all your stuff in orange Tolex, but that's your thing, cool. But we went and played their stuff at the Nashville showroom, and I played a dual dark, and it also, I guess, helped because it was in a black box. I was like, oh, cool, like, this isn't a big orange thing. But I mean, we plugged into that thing, I played it there and cranked it up for a second. I was just like, this thing sounds really good. So we took him to soundcheck, right, and we threw him up on stage, and usually when I don't know an amp, like if I see like a dual rectifier or like a GCM 800, I can set the knobs and know like I'm roughly already there. Like I can tweak it from there. But when I don't know an amp, I'll just kind of put everything at noon and just see where it is. So I just put all the tones, gains, volumes, everything. I just put them all straight up on that dual dark. Plugged in, it sounded really good through just an orange 412. I was like, huh. That was too easy. So I went and I jacked with things, and I spent about a half hour just trying to like, crank the mids and lower the mids, bass treble, everything, just trying to see. Like, I couldn't have just hit it straight noon. That's too easy, right? But I messed with it for like a half hour, and I came back to it, and everything was straight up. It was crazy. I was like, all right, I'm kind of a bonehead about like settings. Like usually on my pedals, like if something sounds really good at almost all the way up, I'll just crank it all the way, because I'm like, that's easier. If I go hard over to like all the way to the right, then cool, I know where it's always set, and I can just if I bump it, I can check it. Oh, that's good, I know where it is. But I was just shocked. I'm like, this thing sounds amazing, and everything's straight up. So to me, that kind of said like it was a really like a well built and well voiced amp too, because it was like, here's everything straight up. You didn't need to cut or boost.
Yeah, that
anything.
Makes sense. I mean, they got a lot of range on either side. If it sounds good at noon with the Les Paul, you might crank up the low end a little bit to work with the telly or whatever. It's like if it sounds good at noon, it's
right.
It's going to work with a wide variety of instruments, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those things too. It was just like, I'm like, I couldn't have just gotten it just by like, I didn't know the amp, but it happened, and put it out to my guitar tech, my buddy Trevor, and I was like, dude, check out the settings on this thing. Sounds good, right? He's like, yeah, it sounds great. And he looked at it, he's like, that's funny. Because normally, like, if we're sharing backline or anything, we'll just take a picture of the settings so we can hit them back up right before we play. But he's like, well, I don't think I need to take a picture. I can remember everything straight up. That's easy.
It's interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah.
So one thing I wanted to talk to you about that I almost forgot about. You've toured more than anyone that I've actually talked to on this show at this point. Do you have any like I don't know what the word would be, like good rules of thumb for guys going out and playing gigs, as far as just weird tips or tricks you might have picked up, or any just kind of things that somebody who's toured for 20 plus years would know that somebody who doesn't really do that, wouldn't think about?
Definitely I've been talking about reliability, right? I mean, nothing will frustrate you more than having to fight with your amp to make it work every night. And I was watching that documentary, It Might Get Loud, with Jack White, The Edge, and Jimmy Page. And Jack White was talking about he wants a guitar he has to kind of do battle with and like get in a fight with because he feels like, he kind of earned it and all that. I'm like, that's really cool. But man, every night, I don't know if I could deal with that. Like, just a constant struggle to get your stuff to work right and all that. So I'm a big fan of reliability with my gear. And I mean, as a touring guy, I think, and I think most touring guys would probably agree that if you get something you really like how it sounds and it's reliable, man, there's nothing better than knowing your stuff's going to work every night. That and like, investing in, good quality gear, like, it might cost a little more, but in the long run, you're going to be so much happier, hearing things. I mean, we had a producer we worked with, Jerry Finn, who said one of his keys to getting a band to perform better was he's like, I try to make it sound better than they've ever heard themselves in the studio, like in the control room. So when they're playing, they're just like, they're so stoked that they sound good that they're just going to play even better and like with more energy. So being able to hear yourself coming back off your amp and like, you strum like a big old A chord and it just gives you chills. It'll make your day so much better. So, I definitely am a fan of, you might want to spend a couple extra bucks and get the one that you really want that sounds really good. And it's just, you're going to play it all the time, especially touring like we do, or like we used to for sure. You're going to get your use out of it, I mean, back in 2000, I bought a pair of custom shop R9s from Gibson, and they were both sunburst. One's a dark burst, one's a cherry burst. And man, I played those things all the time. Like, there's pictures out there of me playing the cherry burst where I wore through the finish up above the kind of between the neck pickup and the bridge pickup, and just above them, just like, just run around stage and jump around like I do. Like, I'm kind of all over the place, and I've straight up worn through all the finish, and it looks like a relic guitar, but I promise you it was shiny and brand new when I got it, and I did all that. Like, it's all weather checked. It's all weather checked from being in a hot club all night and like a freezing trailer on, all the next day getting to the next show, right? So it's got a lot of authentic wear on it. And I remember, speaking of Orange, so a rep from Orange came out and he was looking at our gear before we played, and he was just like, who did the relic on this? I'm like, that's not a relic. I did it. He's like, what? I'm like, yeah, I just played it for 17 years and that's what happened. He's like, dude, that's so cool. He's like, he was telling me about like all these high res photos they've taken of like Jimmy Page's guitars and all these ones that they tried to kind of do like signature models where they would kind of mimic that guitar. And he's like, I've never seen wear just like this. How'd you do that? I'm like, I'm not a good guitarist and I just beat the crap out of the thing. And that's what happened. So he was really amped on it. He's like, that's so cool. He's like, everyone plays all these relic guitars and you can't tell, but it's really cool that you did that. And I'm like, yeah, man, this thing, the Cherry Burst, actually, it's funny. My guy Jimmy from Gibson, he was like the artist rep back in like 1999, 2000. I just dealing with him. I said, hey, I want to get these two guitars. So I ordered them through him. He had the custom shop make them, and he was down in LA, and they were sitting in his office one day, and Adam Day, who's Slash's guitar tech, been his tech for years, right? Comes in, sees a couple guitars sitting there, so he's going through, just looking at them, and he sees my Cherry Burst, and he's like, "Ooh, what's going on with this one?" And Jimmy's like, "Oh, it's for this guy from this band MxPx." He's like, "Slash wants it," and Jimmy's like, "What?" He's like, "Slash wants this guitar." He's like, dude, the guy already bought it. It's paid for. He's like, has he seen it yet?
Oh.
No, well, it doesn't matter that Slash wants this one. He's like, I just want to let you, Jimmy's like, I just want to let you know that I told him, no, that was your guitar. I'm like, no way, man. That's so cool. Like, I mean, I obviously grew up loving Guns N' Roses, right? And like, because you look at what Slash plays and all that, my Cherry Burst would have fit right in with him. So for him to say, I fought the good fight for you, I was pretty stoked about that.
That's cool.
That one,
thanks, Jimmy.
That one has a good little backstory.
That's amazing. Slash wants that. It would have been so easy for him to be like, okay. Like,
yeah, well, I mean, Slash is like, I mean, he's the guy. I mean, like, he's incredible. So, you hear a lot about, like, guys, oh, he's he's really good, he's technically proficient, or like he's in this big famous band. Slash is all that, but he's also just like, I've always just loved like what he plays. Like, it's not about how many notes he can play, it's playing the right notes, you know, and he plays all the right notes, in my opinion. He's just, you know, he's never, everything he does, all his solo work's just so good. Like, and like, you know, hearing that he wanted that guitar, I was just so stoked.
You
I'm
can't
like, dude,
have.
that's rad.
I
I'm glad
love
I
you,
have it.
Slash, but you can't have it.
And
Right.
obviously, he never saw it. Yeah, and he never saw it or anything. But I know, like, you know, his tech, you know, knew he would like love it. So
That's pretty cool.
getting to have it for my own was pretty sweet.
Well, Slash, obviously. What are some of your other guitar heroes?
Oh, geez. I mean, you know, over the years they kind of, you know, changed, but you know, the amount of running around on stage we do, and like, you know, I try to be high energy, and I get so amped up too just playing that like I can't help myself sometimes. But I've always loved Angus Young just because he's just out there. He's possessed, like, in like the best possible way. Like, he just run around stage, just, you know, doing the duck walk and just going crazy. He's just a little guy with an SG just going for it. And I've always just loved what he does. Not to mention their songs are incredible, and he's a great player too. But just like, he's just out there just sweating his ass off and just going for it. And he's like, you know, he was an old man. I think they're kind of done now, right? Like they kind of said like, hey, we're pretty much done, right? Do you know about, is that? Yeah. So I mean, but they were doing it right until the end, and he was still out there giving 110% every night, and he was really inspiring in that way. Pete Townsend is another one. Just, you know, just playing, you know, just windmilling his guitar, and he has his arm around and just like writes amazing songs, tons of energy, you know, just showing off out there. I just always really loved that.
Oh, my man.
Joe Strummer's another one. And that one kind of, yeah, and that works for me too, because, you know, like, I've never been like a noodler. I've always been a strummer. So, and that's where he picked his name from. He was like, you know, I wasn't the best guitarist, but I could strum along. So he picked Joe Strummer. And Clash are like the Clash and the Descendants are my favorite bands ever. So, you know, the Clash and Joe Strummer just being that strummer, the strum along, just really, you know, I don't know, he just grabbed me. He just wrote such cool things. And he was a preacher with his singing too, like, and you believed everything he was saying, right? Then obviously, speaking of the Descendants, Stefan from the Descendants, you know, just incredible guitarist, and like in the pop punk world, like, you know, like, I mean, he wrote the book. I mean, straight up. And so the cool thing with that too is like getting to know him over the years and becoming friends with him, but like still seeing him play. Like, the Descendants came up here 2 nights in Seattle when they did their new record, Hyperspasm Caffeinate, and I went both nights and was just like in the crowd, just geeking out and singing along. It was so great. And then so talking on that strumming thing, I kind of have like, I was kind of thinking about like I have like 5 guitar heroes. So it was Angus, Pete, Joe, Stefan, and then Brian Baker from Bad Religion, Dag Nasty, Minor Threat, right? Just incredible player, right? So we were sitting there one day on Warped Tour with Bad Religion, and we had just played, and we were talking, and I was saying like, you know, I was kind of like disappointed that like I sucked or whatever, and he was so good and all this, whatever. And he's like, dude, what you do up there is incredibly hard. It's way harder than some guy playing a solo. He's like, you're the only one out there doing it. Every little thing you do wrong, he's like, it was like that with me with Dag Nasty. Any little thing you did wrong, everyone hears it and everyone knows it. You have to be 100% spot on, locked in the whole time. You cannot take a moment off. I'm like, that's pretty cool. And then obviously, you know, him being a guitar hero of mine was another thing where I was just
That's
like,
so awesome.
Brian Baker just said that to me. No way. Yeah. He's incredible too. And yeah, I mean, I've sat next to his amp and just listened to him play many times and just been blown away. And he's one of those guys too. I think like he picks up a guitar and it just sounds different when he plays it, you know?
He definitely has the finger thing going on.
Yeah,
he
does.
Like,
there's something magic in his fingers. 100%. There's a cool story, speaking of how some people can play gear and just make it sound better. There was Aerosmith was recording in like Vancouver or something like that, and I think the engineer might have been Bob Rock or some engineer, right? And they were like, hey, come out to this bar tonight, you know, the band's playing, you know, come check it out, right? So Aerosmith. Yeah, cool, show up. So I think it was Dave Jordan who we had worked with. He was engineering on a thing or something like that. And he said the engineer, whoever it was, got up, their band played, and he's like, it just sounded horrible. It sounded so bad. And he's like, I was so bummed out because this guy was a really good engineer, but it just sounded like garbage.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, so band goes up there and they play, and it sounded like crap. And then, it's a little bar show in Vancouver that nobody's at, and all the Aerosmith guys are there. So they're like, well, we'll get up and play too. This will be fun, right? Just surprise, here we go, right? So he's like, Aerosmith got up, jumped on all the same gear, didn't change a thing, night and day. He's like, it sounded incredible all of a sudden. And he's like, they just have something magic in their fingers when they play together, that whole thing. And I'd fully believe that. So Baker's one of those people for me that like he picks up a guitar and it just sounds better.
Yeah. I've always really liked, I don't know, just like, yeah, I can play that same power chord that he just played. And it somehow, between the recording, how he plays it, whatever he's using, it just sounds fuller and richer. And it's just like, I'm still playing a G. Why doesn't my G not sound like that G? I'm so mad about it.
Right.
And I got a lot of guys like that. Like Mike Ness is a huge one. I mean, it's just like,
dude.
Oh
yeah.
The tones.
Ness's guitars sound so good. Yeah. So I sat side stage and watched him, and he has those modded Bassman black faces, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's just like he has one on each side, so he's got stereo pair running, and they just sounded so good. And he's playing like a gold top with like P90s, and it just like creamy goodness. It was so good. It was just like are you hearing this, guys? Same thing. Saw Audio Slave. We played a radio show with them years back, and I got to sit about 15 feet from Tom Morello's amp.
Mm-hmm.
That thing he plays like an old 800 through a 412, same one he's played for years with Rage and all that. And it just sounded so good. It was just like, sitting there and just hearing people, like you said, like he obviously does really fun things, that like have nothing to do with like playing the guitar in like a classical sense of like, here we're gonna strum some chords. Like he'll take out the input and like touch it to the pickups and all that, and like he does all sorts of really fun things. But just it sounded so cool, and it's just like, wow, man, this guy's got something.
He definitely has something. I would love to see him live sometime.
Yeah,
that would be really fun.
Yeah, dude's no joke. He's really good.
So we're getting down to kind of I think I could ask you about stories like for hours on end, and that would be perfectly okay with me. I would just sit here and go, wow, that's awesome. But
nice.
Since maybe we want to save some for round 2 one day, but
yeah.
What is one of the coolest or weirdest or craziest things you've seen in your time on the road?
Let's go with craziest.
Okay.
So we did I think it was our first or second tour down in South America, which is kind of like the Wild West. It's a little wild down there still as far as like the touring world. So we were playing a little town called Curitiba on the coast in Brazil. And I show up at the show, and we walk in, and crew had been there for maybe like an hour or two, and we had a lighting guy, our buddy Jeff, on tour with us, and he goes, Tom, glad you're here. Come here, right? You walk up on stage, and over on my side of the stage, literally like right next to where the Guitar World and where my amps are, there's a cardboard box with a big skull and crossbones drawn on it, and it says, touch this, you will die. And I'm like,
oh,
what is that? I'm like, what's going on there? He goes, come here. So he grabs the cardboard box and pulls off carefully, and it's the main power bus for like the entire club, but it's wide open. Like, you can see all the wires, and it's jumper cables that are hooked onto the top of it. And then the jumper cables are running along the back wall. He's like, come here, follow it. So we follow it. It runs along the back wall out into the building next door. And that's how the place was getting their power. And he's like, that's live 240 right there. And it's wide open, exposed. He's like, I couldn't not put something over it because I knew for sure you would fall into it tonight and die.
Wow.
So, yeah. So he made a little box and covered it up. And he's like, just be really mindful of that thing tonight because it will kill you if you touch it.
That's just with jumper cable, just slipped on there. Like, no worries. It's fine.
Yeah. Like I said, it's the Wild West, man. It's is definitely crazy, but yes, it's the Wild West too, but that also makes it just so much more fun and exciting. Like, the shows down there they're just like rowdier in like a really fun way. It's a good time. But the imminent death at stage right is not fun.
That's not something I ever want to experience myself. I'm down for a rowdy mosh pit.
It's fun to see though.
That's a little bit next level.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when playing in South America, watch out, kids.
Yeah.
Be careful.
Yeah, make sure if you got jumper cables, stealing power from the building next door, that it's all set up right.
Good. That's good advice for life, I think. Whether you're a touring musician or not.
Seriously.
So I want you to... I have a final, all-important question after this one. But first, it would probably be a good time for you to kind of talk about what's going on with your Kickstarter campaign. And feel free to just shameless plug away on everything in that regard.
Oh, yeah. So we're doing a new record right now, and we just launched a Kickstarter for this, and hopefully it's still going when this airs. But basically, we talked about maybe doing it with a label and all that, and just we were like, no, this is just all, this just doesn't feel right. And so, like I was saying earlier, we don't do things. We say no more than we say yes. We don't do things unless we absolutely believe in it now and make sure that's going to make sense for us and make sure it's something we actually want to do. I mean, I feel like at one point in our career, we would tour and play shows just because that's what we did. And okay, we must play more shows now.
Mm-hmm.
Where now we try to make it a little more special and like try to do fun things. So we decided to do the record on our own, just at our own studio. Got a buddy of ours from over in Seattle that came over and recorded it. Buddy Casey Bates, who's a great producer, and it's not like we just found some rando friend. Like he's a serious like bona fide like Grammy winner, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we did it all on our own, and we got this Kickstarter going to basically, to make sure Casey's check doesn't bounce for one, but also just to fund promoting the record. We're going to be out there promoting the record on our own and going out and playing shows and trying to spread the word about it. Because the thing is with this record is we got in the studio and it was just us. We had been playing weekend shows and all that. And it kind of came one day where Mike's like, I got a couple songs, guys. Do you want to hear some new ones? We're like, yeah, duh.
Mm-hmm.
And we started working on them, and just like the vibe now, it's not like the band was ever like no fun, but it's so much more fun now than it has been in years. And it just, everything really clicked, and the songs were coming out just really fun and cool, and just like a lot more up tempo, kind of just like fun. It was all clicking really, really easily. Like where it was like, this feels really good. Like what's going on? Like the song is too good. Like we should have just came up with that in like 15 minutes. What happened, right?
Sometimes that's the best stuff.
Yeah, right. Did we just stumble onto something? What's going on, right? So I'm so excited to get this record out there. Like I've been telling people, like I wish we made this record when I was in my 20s, man, and we were out touring every day, like because it's just like I feel like it's a return to form, and I think with that whole it being a lot more fun than it has been in years thing, I think that really translated into the recording and the music, and we did it with like a whole kind of live feel because we were sitting in the studio, in the rehearsal room, just banging them out and recording it, right? And so we wanted that same kind of feel for the record, so it's recorded where like all my guitar is on one side and all Chris is on the other, and we're not really playing, like if we're playing like a little lead thing, that's just all that's coming out of the left hand side. That's it, right? It's not like a stereo pan guitars with a nice fat lead sound right up the middle. It's very live sound, like it's all audience perspective. So if you're listening to it and you're imagining looking at the stage, like you're going to hear me on the left side and you're going to hear Chris on the right side, kind of thing, and Yuri stepping on his hi-hats through all the parts where it would normally just be like a click kind of keeping us all together.
Right.
There's like a holdout or whatever. Yuri's stepping on them and stepping the counts, and we left it all in there just to give it that live feel that we just were really feeling and really enjoying when we were making all these songs, just like when we were writing them in the studio. So I'm just really, really stoked that this thing has come together so well. And Casey was a dream to work with. He made everything sound so good, so quick, and he took all the production out of our way, and like we didn't even have to like think about or worry about any of it. It was just like is all vibe and just playing, and it was so much fun, and I just can't wait for people to hear it. But the Kickstarter is going on now to fund that, so there's a million different ways you can get involved. Anything from, just buying a digital download of the record, which is rad, to like getting colored vinyl, or like we made little plush dolls of the MxPx, the Pukanach Punk.
Mm-hmm.
Anywhere up to like we're having a house party you can come to, and we're gonna play the whole record through, or like we're doing a bonfire thing where we're just gonna meet up and have a bonfire like in the middle of the summer, and bring out some acoustic guitars and have some sing-alongs and all that. There's so many different ways to get involved. So if everyone wants to check it out, it's all over the MxPx Facebook, Instagrams. It's all over our personal Instagrams and Facebooks and everywhere. It's easy to find if you just Google MxPx Kickstarter, but I definitely would encourage people to check it out because I'm so excited for people to hear this record, and I want people to feel what I feel.
Yeah, we'll make sure and put that link in the show notes there for everybody to make it nice and easy so you can find out all that stuff.
I appreciate that.
No problem. I
appreciate that.
Well, I'm really excited for it myself, to be honest, because I'm trying not to make you feel like an old man or anything, but like I was listening to you guys in middle school, so it's
nice.
It's kind of,
thank you.
Well, oh yes, absolutely. It's an honor to kind of. I didn't ever think this would happen, so this is pretty rad.
I'm glad it did.
And I forgot I wanted to do this because there's two listeners I know. I don't know if this is weird or not. There's two listeners I know for sure. They're quite active in the community, and they both have their own podcasts actually. They have MxPx tattoos, and I'm sure they're
nice.
They're probably both like embarrassed that I'm telling you this, but if you could say hi to Brian and Co., I'm sure that would make their day.
Brian and Co., owners of the best tattoo in the world. How's it going, guys?
There you go.
Yeah, it's rad. I got it too. Mike has it. We're trying really hard to get Yuri to get it. Yuri has no tattoos, so Brian and Co., if you could hit Yuri up on like Instagram or Facebook or wherever you can get to him, let him know, hey man, we got it. Why don't you?
There you go. That's Brian from the Tone Jerks and Co. from the Flippin' Flippers. So if you get the chance, you can check out their stuff too. Once you burn through all the back episodes of Tone Mob, of course, because
I got some homework to do.
Can't imagine anyone would want to listen to me that long. But the final and probably most important question that I asked all the guests, or try to ask all the guests if I remember, is, Tom, what is your favorite kind of pizza?
Oh man, I'm a pepperoni, sausage, bacon, onion, garlic kind of guy.
Thin crust.
My breath probably reeks afterwards. Oh yeah, thinner.
Nice,
like New York style thin.
Any specific restaurant that really does the pie right for you?
I got some buddies like literally up the street from my house that have a pizza place called the Toad House here in Bremerton, and they make such good like wood-fired pizza. I went up there Friday, went and hung out with them, had a couple of beers, got a pizza, bring home, and they make excellent pizza. It's so good.
That sounds like
some
a
local
good time.
boys.
And don't worry about your breath. Like if your breath smells, that means it was a good meal. Don't worry about it.
Absolutely.
That's their problem.
Yeah, it's not mine.
Well, thank you very much for coming on, Tom. I really appreciate it. This was a good time.
Thanks for having me.
If you ever want to come back on, you know, find me.
Yeah, definitely. Round 2. I got stories for years, man.
We should do a story time episode. That would be fun.
There you go, man.
Right on, man. Well, for Tom, this is Blake, and as always, folks, good luck and good tones. That episode was quite a trip for me. That's not something I ever thought would happen. I've been listening to that band for quite a while, and I know there's a bunch of super fans in the audience, so that's really exciting for me to get to talk to Tom and kind of nerd out on a little bit different aspect than what you might normally hear in a band member interview, and I'm really hoping that I can bring some more things like that to the show. So
let's keep our fingers crossed in that regard. And big thanks to Tom for taking time out of his day to come on. And do check out that Kickstarter. It's still rolling. It's starting to get close to the end. If you are listening to, pretty close when this airs, it's still out there. It's still, you can still get in on some goods. So check the link in the show notes for more information on that regard. And other than that, I hope you all have the most wonderful week. I'll talk to you next time. And feel free to holler at me on any of the socials, info@tonemob.com for email, or wherever you get your tone mobbery. Take care, folks. I hope everything is grand. Have a good week. One last thing before we totally sign off here. I just want to remind you that if you do any shopping at Stringjoy, that's Stringjoy guitar strings made in Nashville, that will help me out as well. As I've said for years, I'm heavily involved in that company, and I really do think they're making the best products on the market. So if you would like to try custom strings, go to tonemob.com/stringjoy and check them out today. I seriously love what the team down there is doing. I help them out with all kinds of things, and by you supporting them, you are also supporting me as well. And hey, you need some strings, so why not get some custom strings just for your guitar and playing style? Again, the link for that is tonemob.com/stringjoy, and that will take you right to their website, and you can do all your shopping through there, and that will help everyone involved out. So thank you very much. Talk to you next time. We are brought to you by the wonderful folks at Gun Street Wiring Shop. Yes, Gun Street Wiring Shop. I've talked about them before. I used to say based out of Bend, Oregon, but guess what? Sean moved to my neck of the woods. Sean's in Portland. Sean is awesome and has helped me with a bunch of stuff lately. And if you have wiring needs for your guitar, he can help you too. If you want to get weird with it, he can get weird. If you just need to spruce things up a little bit, there's your guy. He takes all the guesswork out of doing your guitar wiring, and he makes it simple, and his customer service is top-notch, and I can't say enough good things about Gun Street as a company. I really respect Sean and what he's all about, and the product is top-notch. I've got 3 different guitars that now have Gun Street harnesses in them, and I could not be happier. So go to gunstreetwiringshop.com and check them out.